Pirelli's proposed ban on tyre warmers was greeted with opposition from some Formula One drivers, notably Max Verstappen, Lando, Norris and Lewis Hamilton. The tyre manufacturer appears to have heeded the concerns and is suggesting an alternative, at least for this year. Tyre warmers are being phased out of Formula One. The first stage is to reduce the temperature in 2023 and then stop using them entirely the following year. But the concept was received with opposition from drivers such as Verstappen, Norris and Hamilton, prompting Pirelli to perform an experiment. Thus, Pirelli devised a new strategy for 2023. The tyres are now heated to 70 degrees for 2 hours, rather than 3 throughout the experiment. The goal for 2023 was to heat the tyres for 3 hours to 50 degrees instead of 70, but the trial may have led to a better strategy. Pirelli CEO Mario Azzola tells that it takes less energy to heat the tyres to 70 degrees for 2 hours, rather than 3 hours to 50 degrees. So it appears to be a superior option in that regard as well. As a result, the tyre supplier has submitted the updated strategy to the FIA. Verstappen and Norris both expressed their displeasure with the proposed restriction on tyre warmers. Moreover, Verstappen projected that prohibiting tyre warmers would significantly increase the amount of collisions. Pirelli has subsequently proposed an option for next year, although the aim is to phase out tyre warmers by 2024. And so, developing tyres that deliver a sufficient amount of grip straight out of the pits will be the key parameter in assessing if Formula One can go forward with the proposed tyre blanket ban for 2024 that Lewis Hamilton recently labelled as dangerous and pointless. The prohibition on tyre coverings for next season has long been anticipated, but it was put on hold in the most recent publication of the current technical regulations, which contains a section discussing modifications for 2024. The laws specify that the 2023 tyre standards will be carried over, subject to an examination procedure that might allow all tyre heating equipment, including blankets and tents, to be outlawed as originally envisaged. In order for this to happen, the F1 Commission must vote on it by the end of July. The modifications for 2024 regulations stipulate that a simple majority, defined as 5 of the 10 teams, will be required. Hamilton is well placed to comment on the tyres, having driven them on a 2022 Mercedes in a Pirelli test at the beginning of February, as part of the 24 tyre test program. However, it should be remembered that this was done in cold weather and with rubber that was still in development and was far from the final product. Mario Azzola, Pirelli's head of F1, said he understood Hamilton's feelings, but that the issue needed to be placed into correct context. "I understand the comment," said Azzola when asked about Hamilton's suggestion the grip offset between cars on cold tyres and those on warm ones could be dangerous. Also, consider that the drivers are used to exiting the pit lane and driving with tyres that are able to generate more or less the grip that they have when they stabilise, so it's a completely different approach for them. It's difficult to tell you now if we can develop a tyre with exactly the same characteristics of the tyres that we're using now. Probably they will have differences, because without blankets, you need some corners to warm up the tyre. And that means that drivers need to get used to this new situation. I understand the point that if on the outlap one car is 10 seconds slower than another car, this creates a speed differential that must be considered. Lewis's comments was related to this, and it's a fair comment. We need to consider all the elements. This is why in the next test we're going to implement a new methodology to evaluate the outlap, because the outlap without blankets will be a key parameter in the decision. Azzola also stated that Hamilton was absolutely correct when he stated that the fuel cars will use to warm up their tyres on the circuit should be considered in the decision to prohibit blankets. This is because the blanket ban is part of the push towards F1's net carbon zero aim, and is triggered by the amount of energy consumed to power the tyre blankets, with Azzola agreeing that we have to consider many elements, so the fuel used is one of those elements. As a result, the warm-up characteristics will be critical, but Pirelli is confident of meeting them because the current test tyres are in their optimal operating zone within 2 laps. That's why the emphasis is now on enhancing grip right out of the pits. Manufacturing such tyres is difficult due to the substantial difference in pressures from cold to hot, which Azzola estimates to be 9 to 10 psi, maybe more, as well as a requirement for a broad operating window. Pirelli's research work will continue in the coming months, with a test scheduled for July 11th to 12th at Silverstone, following the British Grand Prix. Following that, talks will be conducted that might result in the blanket ban for 2024 being put to a vote by the F1 Commission. The appropriateness of the tyres themselves, as well as their influence on the show, will be among the issues evaluated. This is due to fears that a blanket prohibition will result in less strategic variation. "We have a test on Tuesday and Wednesday after Silverstone," said Azzola. There is a plan to have a meeting with FIA, F1 teams and drivers to see the situation with the development of the tyres for next year and to decide if we're at the right level or if we need more time to develop a tyre able to work without blankets, without affecting the show. Another important thing that we have to consider is that last year we had a fantastic championship. We had a lot of action. We had a lot of different strategies. We had a mix of one stop and two stops. That is exactly what spectators want to see, and we don't want to change the situation. That means that we want to provide a tyre able to work without blankets, with the same characteristics that our current tyres. This is an additional level of difficulty. The issue is whether the teams would vote against the tyre warmer ban even if Pirelli meets its objectives with the 2024 test tyres. As a general, F1 teams are reluctant to such changes and will most likely cite the necessity to integrate the ban on tyre covers into their 2024 vehicle design, which will be well advanced by then, as a reason not to support it. Isola, on the other hand, is certain that Pirelli can deliver a powerful enough product. He cites the fact that the teams back the adoption of blanketless wet tyre, which will be used beginning with the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix in May, as proof that they will be amenable to such a move. This is because it was acceptable, despite the fact that not all teams had tested the new tyres, instead relying on testing data. After hearing Hamilton's critique of the slicks, Ferrari's Carlos Sainz stated that he had no similar reservations about the 2023 blanketless wets, which he had previously tried as part of Pirelli's program. Hamilton's strong criticism implies the drivers are not keen on an overhaul, but with the default in the regulations currently being that the tyre heating devices be permitted for next year on the same basis as in 2023, the odds are that the ban will at least be postponed. And if that's not enough for tyre changes, we've got a whole new compound on our hands for this year as well. The Bahrain Grand Prix is set to take place this weekend, and Pirelli will make the new compound accessible to Formula 1 teams immediately. The additional compound is expected to be a solid alternative in the race, according to the tyre provider. The new C1 tyre will make its debut at the season's first event, the Bahrain Grand Prix. This year, the number of available compounds will be up to 6, with 3 being utilised every race. The C1 will bridge the gap between the toughest tyre, the C0, which was used as the C1 last year, and the unmodified C2. Teams in Bahrain can utilise the C1, C2 and C3. The rough tarmac and large temperature difference will be difficult. Qualifying in the race will, in fact, take place in quite different conditions than FP1 and FP3. Because the railway is in the desert, sand may drift upon it. This might have an impact on grip throughout the workouts. In summary, there'll be a lot to think about throughout the first race weekend. In Bahrain, the new Pirelli tyres are an excellent alternative. The first race of the championship will be an important test bench to validate all the development work we've carried out last year, which allowed us to further improve the structure of the tyres and introduce a new compound. Our latest C1 will make its debut at Sakhir, an entirely new compound based on last year's C2, which allows us to reduce the performance gap between the harder compounds in the range. We expect it to be a valid option for the race this weekend as well. The undercut is often pivotal to the Bahrain Grand Prix, so it will be interesting to see how the teams make use of this new element in the trio of compounds that are nominated for Sakhir, Mario Isola said on the official website of Pirelli. So what do you think? Are all these changes in the right direction? Or do the drivers have a point? Is it useless to ban the blankets and most of all dangerous? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for watching and we'll see you in the next video.